So he was a Jain philosopher who was espousing the view that a person has material form as self, or they have feeling as self, or they have the five aggregates as self. And today, I mean, that's quite a prominent view, for example, in the Advaita Vedanta non-dualist kind of Hindu view that there's an extratemporal higher self or universal consciousness, and liberation comes from like surrendering the inferior self or the ego to this higher self. And it seems to me that view is almost a necessary prerequisite to understanding the Buddha's teaching, in the sense that
in the sense you're trying to find a way out,
or you're seeing this negative self peripheral to experience. You have to see that self to then discern the nature of that self, to then see the impermanence of it, or
not necessarily. Like you could arrive at it differently though. You could just arrive through wanting to be free from suffering and so on. But yes, say somebody does have that view, have that experience of a higher self, a higher form of self that seems to be unchanged by these more kind of perturbing changes that happen on the level of this kind of temporal self here and now. So you can't just stop having that view. I mean, why would you? But how can you overcome that view? So how can you overcome view of a higher self that does factually help you cope with life much better, helps you not be perturbed as much when this kind of lower self gets affected? This higher self gives me perspective. So well, let's say first, what's the problem? What's the problem with that? Why is that a problem? Why is the Advaita view a problem?
Well, it seems
why is the higher self an issue?
It's turning consciousness into a thing.
I don't know anything about that. I don't know. I never heard the word consciousness. I don't know anything. I just know that having a higher sense of self makes my life better. What's the problem with it? Practically speaking, is there an issue with that? Why is it an issue to have a higher self as a reference point?
Well, ultimately it's because you can't discern with this is Paticca Samuppada.
I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't need to, because I'm again, higher sense of self frees me from suffering here and now. I don't know what you're talking about, that, Paticca Samuppada. Factually, when I'm devoted to the higher Atman or something, I have no pain. What's the problem? I mean, I'm free from suffering. Isn't that what the Buddha teaches? Freedom from suffering. I can bear a lot more. I cannot lose perspective. I can maintain my kindness in regard to others. What's the problem with a higher reference point of a higher self? What's the issue? Is there an issue?
Well, it is intoxicating. It is very pleasurable. You would see why that is very difficult to overcome that.
But why would you overcome it if it's not an issue?
I mean, you wouldn't. That's why people don't.
Right. So then, are you saying there is no issue with it?
I mean,
or there is an issue with it?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Like from a personal point of view.
Yeah.
Am I at risk?
You can't.
If I take that higher self, am I exposing myself?
Yes, of course, because you can't discern the unknowability of the self.
So then, unknowability of it is the problem. That's the issue.
The lack of discernment of the unknowability, because the unknowability is factual.
No, I'm just asking about the actual property, say, of that experience.
Yeah.
Whether you discern it or not, sure, that's again from the Buddhist point of view. But imagine somebody, a non-Buddhist person, what is an issue? Is there an issue with a higher sense of self? Without referring to, well, Buddha's teaching is better. And free from suffering. Well, I'm free from suffering when I'm merged with my Atman or something. So from that point of view, whatever you're saying, it's already what I'm doing. But then, is it so? Or it isn't? Is there an issue that whoever partakes in their view is not aware of? Yeah. Is there an issue that whoever partakes in their view is they're turning the blind eye towards? They're not seeing it. They're ignoring it. So yes, unknowability of it is an issue. Like, see, you just assume it is your higher self. But do you know that higher self is also not subjected to the same perturbing things? Sure, it's on a higher level, so it does not get perturbed as easily as these other things. But ultimately, are you sure that it cannot be perturbed? Are you sure that it cannot turn against you? Are you sure that it cannot let you down? Are you sure it will obey your will and save you? How do you know that?
Are you sure
How do you know any of
it's
that?
forever?
Exactly. It boils down to that. That's what when he described in the suttas the practices of other schools and teachings, says, yes, some Samana and Brahmanas would factually establish their mind upon the great element of earth, and they would abandon everything inferior to it. But they would not understand the danger of that element of earth that they have used to abandon everything inferior. Tathagata understands that as well. They would not understand the danger, gratification, danger, and the escape in regard to earth, water, fire, Atman, consciousness. You know Mula Pariyaya Sutta, like the whole seeing Brahmas and everything, but conceiving them as yours. And that's the root of the problem. It's not that this sense of self is perturbed and you need to find a bigger one. The reason is whatever you find, you're going to conceive it as yours. So that is the heart of the issue. It's even the most refined Advaita experience. Fundamentally, it's unownable. It's not yours. There is no merging of yourself. It's just basically refining the experience of exactly what Sachika said, of the five aggregates. And that's in those other suttas when the Buddha said, doesn't matter if somebody claims, I'll show you the all apart from this all here, the five aggregates, six senses, there is no such thing. He is contradicting himself because there is nothing that he can show you that's outside of this. So no matter how far you think you go in your merging with your higher self, and that frees you from suffering and makes you forget about troubles of this life, that's still within this life. That's still within these aggregates. That's still subjected to these things.
And the issue then is when that thing which is subject to change, that higher self, whatever phenomenon you take as higher self, not seeing that as dependent upon a lower self.
Well, yes, yeah. That's like if you want to escape it. But the real issue is simply you're not really addressing an issue. That's the problem. You just replace one ownership for the other ownership. Both things, because you conceive them as ownable, that's why they're a problem. See, the problem of the inferior self was not that he was perturbed. The problem was that it was yours while he was perturbed. So but then you realize perturbance cannot be stopped, but ownership can. So you just slow down the perturbance, so to speak, by upgrading your higher sense of self. But fundamentally, you're still doing the same thing.
Yeah, it's still unknown.
You haven't escaped the problem because of which you're doing what you're doing.
So the danger is still there that you are now taking something which is subject to change as yourself. So you're obviously subject to, and you might be quite comfortable in that. Taking that higher self as yourself, which seems permanent and so on, but at the end of the day, end of the life, you're going to get
chicken will come home to roost.
You're going to get slapped in the face with reality. And how's that going to feel when you thought you had found something that was permanent and brought you safety, but now it's not? Why have you forsaken me, Lord?
Exactly.
As Jesus said on the
So now, say somebody does recognize, okay, so this higher sense of self, I couldn't regard it as not mine equally. In the same sense, I want to overcome this perturbing sense of self that's constantly perturbed. I could now have the same attitude towards this higher sense of self. So how would they practically, what would they need to do? Say somebody does still have a view of the higher self. You can't just stop thinking it, stop having it. How do you free yourself from it?
So while it's enduring, it's not trying to get rid of it, but see it as determined by that which is out of one's control. As the Buddha says in the sutta, do you have control, like a king has control over his kingdom?
So basically do you
have control over matter, feeling?
So start pondering on its properties. of like, well, do you have a saying it's arising, how it arises, could you prevent it from leaving, do you know? Fundamentally, I think the most practical thing would just come down to stop regarding it as your friend, because that's a completely gratuitous attitude that you just took. There's nothing that justified it. But automatically, people, when they find the higher self, it's automatically regarded as pleasurable mind. It's my friend. It's for my welfare. It's for my being. But if you stop and think about it, there is no justification for that attitude, except you're taking it for granted as such.
It's
so like, why do you think it's your friend?
Well, I guess it makes sense in the sense that it's impermanence is like it's less in the sense that it changes at a slower rate.
Yeah.
Than
we don't need
my
to
smaller thing.
We don't need to figure out
to.
why you took it as friend.
Yeah.
You want to know why you're still holding it as friend. That's what I meant to ask. Like no, so whichever way, one way or the other, you're gonna arrive at such experience of higher self or a meditation experience or peace or whatever, and you're going to regard it as friendly, as yours, as for you, as beneficial, as wholesome. Why is that? Why? I mean, why do you just not question that? So you have the sense of higher self. You don't need to get rid of it. You don't need to psychologize it. You don't need to explain how it came to be. You could just see it for what it is, fully take it, don't deny it, and then start regarding it as, but this is not my friend. This is not mine. This is not for me. This is not for my welfare. This is dangerous. This is a basically, like that sutta says, a friend, somebody who pretends to be a friend just so that it can kill you when you turn away. You could choose to regard it that way, but that's more unpleasant. So unless you have a good reason to do so, you naturally won't do so. You would naturally just carry on regarding it as a friend. Why? Because that feels more pleasant. So fundamentally, chasing pleasure, avoiding pain, the reasons that your inferior self has been perturbed throughout this life, that principle hasn't changed. You're still chasing pleasure, avoiding pain, just on a slower, higher rate, but still doing the same thing, the same attitude, and that's why the same assumption of ownership, taking for granted, and everything else. So you haven't that's the problem of the higher self. It's not an escape.
It's just another form of pleasure.
It's a perpetuation of the same principle.
It takes,
So, have any mystical experience you want, any meditation release you want, and then regard it as an enemy, as a friend, as an enemy who pretends to be a friend who wants to kill you if you kind of, turn away from it. And cultivate that attitude, and you will uproot any passion in regard to the world and your meditation and Atman and everything else, and you'll be truly free. You would understand gratification, delight in it, the danger, the peril, the trap, and then the escape, removal of the gratification and desire towards it. In regard to the loftiest of the mystical experience that made you feel so special before, and you'll be truly free, imperturbable, because nothing can be taken as mine now.
And that's giving up everything, basically. Not taking anything as your self. Giving up ownership of on any level. Yeah,
and first you gotta see that the problem is in the ownership. Without seeing it, you're just going to be taking one thing instead of the other. So that's that authenticity and transparency. Okay, no, whatever safety I've known, found. Again, if you reflect upon it, you realize that you have no say in it, thus you should not. I mean, you still can take it as your safety. You still can remain regarding it as friendly, for me, pleasant, for my welfare. But if you're honest, you realize, well, I don't know that it is factually so, that this thing is factually friendly, yet I just choose to regard it because alternative feels more unpleasant. So thus, all I'm doing is acting away from pain towards pleasure, like what I always have been doing. So, that's why I'm unsafe. So then a man truly wanting his own welfare will realize, no, I must abandon that ownership, that craving in regard to feeling, and then I'll deal with what's there left. I don't know what's going to be, don't matter, but I know that this problem won't be there. So you're not concerned then what's going to happen after. You're just concerned removing what's here and now. that is an issue and the basis for suffering. And it is here and now. That's what Buddha said. That's another famous passage that often gets mystified. Like in the suttas. Stop kind of going over the past and like, where you will be and what will be in the future. Here, what's present, that's what you should abandon. Here and now, that's what I'm abandoning. As in, that's the root of the problem. I have refrained from, but if and then and this and that. Or also at the same time, I have refrained from, in the past I did this or did that. No. Here and now is the issue in regard to craving, in regard to feeling, in regard to ownership, assumption. And that is what I'm abandoning. And then past and future will even themselves out. But that, as I said, that gets mystified. Like, don't think about the past, don't plan the future, just be here now. Well, no. Just abandon your being here and now. Understand it, discern it. Relinquish it, regard it as an enemy. Not be here now, wow, look at this universal joy of this moment-to-moment experience. No. Sure, whatever you describe it. The pure consciousness, my enemy. But this infinite awareness, my threat, peril. Here and now, body experience of this present moment, a trap.
Yeah, there's no reason.
Be here now and regard it as a trap every single second of your being there.
Rather than
you did the work already by being here now. That's why I say all these other teachers and teachings and views that kind of they come up to, be here now, that's the culmination. You can have different permutations of where they come from and what do you do what do you do in order to get there, but the culmination is present moment, here and now. That's it.
Celebrate.
That's it, yeah. And it's like, no, that's where Dhamma actually starts. Yeah, by all means, be here now and then start doing the work of abandoning that here and now through seeing the danger of it, the gratification, the peril. And not just mystifying it and milking that experience more and more.
But you can't be here and now if you're intoxicated.
Yeah, exactly. But then you also should not have a view that, now I'm here and now, my work's done. No, I'm here and now, let me find what work I need to do now. Yeah. How do I abandon this here and now?
How do I prevent the possibility of intoxication arising in the future by discerning?
How do I uproot my dependence on the pleasure of here and now? How I remove any need for safety in here and now? How I get my mind to turn away from here and now?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, by contemplating danger in here and now sufficiently.
So the only way to get to see here and now is to not distract yourself with sensual pleasures.
Yeah, because as I said before, like be here and now as opposed to where. Where else can you be?
Yeah, exactly.
Stop thinking about the past. Why? You are doing that here and now. Don't plan about the future. How's that possible? And why would you not plan about what? You're doing it here and now. If I think about the future, I'm doing it presently here and now. What do you do? I'm just planning what you're going to do tomorrow. Here and now. Mm-hmm. So why is that an issue? So you can't leave here and now even if you want to. People want to leave here and now when here and now is unpleasant.
Yeah, exactly.
But when here and now is pleasant, then they want to mystify it. But it's still the same here and now. As a framework of here and now, it's still there. So why do you want to leave it on some occasions? Why do you want to stop thinking about the past that's done here and now? Because all this pain is coming up. So you just want to be here and now when it's not unpleasant. You want to be here and now in order to avoid the pain of here and now. So that's why it's never a resolution. It's just perpetuation of the same issue. So first, you gotta recognize that the only way to be here and now is not by intending to be here and now, but it's by not distracting yourself from here and now. Not forgetting that you cannot not be here and now. And you will forget that when you engage with your senses, mystical ideas, gratuitous ownerships and safeties and so on.
Or just if you engage with craving.
Yeah.
If you start acting out of craving. Because you are by acting out of craving, you're anticipating the future pleasure. So you're just in this anticipation, isn't it? So you're not here and now.
Exactly.
You are here and now.
You are here and now. Yeah.
But you completely.
But you don't want to be here and now. You want to be
somewhere else.
Here and now later on, when that here and now is pleasant. Yeah. So exactly. Yeah, that's removal of craving means like there is no other option but to fully be here and now, because you are here and now.
So don't worry, abandon the future. Don't worry about the future. Don't have anticipation. Remove that anticipation.
Yeah, don't delight in it.
That craving.
Exactly. But you can't, from here and now moment, next here and now moment, it's already me thinking about the future.
Yeah.
So you cannot think about the future. It means like that would be being unconscious. And same, if you can think about the future, means there is an implicit past carried with it. Equally, it will mean you're unconscious if you stop thinking about the past. Just merge yourself in the present moment. Well, why do you need to merge yourself with it when you're already in it?
So now heart thinks about the future, thinks about the past, but the only difference is... So
they are now here and now. So what's the difference? Oh, the difference is that here and now feels unpleasant. So basically, I don't really care about here and now, or Atman for that matter, or anything else. I just care about not feeling this discomfort and pain. So how do I deal with it? By replacing with pleasure, an ignorant way. If a person starts to, even that doesn't matter, even if you're engaging in that, but you actually start honestly asking yourself certain questions, and you recognize that, okay, but the principle is still the same. Here I am claiming here and now is the way out, while here and now I'm trying to get rid of the here and now that's not on my own terms.
Yeah.
So here and now then, it's not the way out. And it's not really even about here and now or here and there or whatever else. It's about me getting rid of the pain when I'm touched by it, and me having pleasure or prolonging it when I'm touched by it. So that's the root of the problem. That's the root of the unsafety. So how about stop worrying about past or future or here and now for that matter. Undo your attitude towards pleasure and your attitude towards pain. And your attitude towards neutral feeling. That's all you need to do. So how do I start that? What do I do? Well, come here, monk. Dwell restrained by the precepts. That's how you start. And it will make sense. If you want to approve the craving in regard to your feeling, like if I feel pleasant, you want to remove the desire for more. If you feel uncomfortable, you want to remove that aversion, that trying to get rid of it. And if you feel neutral, you want to remove that just distracted indolence of forgetting about yourself and drifting away. So first thing you do, you gotta restrain your behavior by body. You can't be engaging with these things that already depend on this craving in regard to your feeling, while expecting to remove the craving in regard to your feeling. So dwell restrained by the rules of Patimokkha, so to say. Then guard the sense doors. Then be moderate in eating. Basically, tone down, tame it, contain the behavior. Don't let it keep spilling out on a various basis of craving. And then the mind and the here and now and everything else can become apparent. And then you could also exercise then these attitudes towards it. Okay, so this is perilous. This is not to be welcomed. This is not to be delighted in. I don't need to get rid of it. I can't get rid of it. Getting rid of it would be another form of aversion of it. So again, I'm back onto craving. So then you teach your mind how to remain calm in regard to pleasure, in regard to pain, in regard to neutral feeling. Calm, by that I don't mean focused on your nostrils, unaware of what's happening. I mean unmoved by it. So when pleasure touches you, he knows it. He sees it. He doesn't leap at it. When pain touches you, he doesn't shrivel away from it. And when neutral feeling touches that mind, it does not drift away and just unaware of it.
So in other words, he knows he knows his suffering. He can be with his suffering. It's like all the precepts and Restraint is helping you to be with the suffering.
Yeah, to stop trying to get rid of it on impulse, which is the reason for your suffering in the first place. The impulse of craving.
Yeah. Initially, I guess you have to take this on faith in the sense like the more you do
relatively speaking. Yeah.
I mean, there's still some logic to it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. It's not on the faith, okay, I have no discernment at all. I'll just believe in this. Yeah, you have to take it on faith because the result of correct application of medicine will have to follow later on. You're not immediately going to see the skin cream working. But if you have faith to apply it on account of some discernment, you will find out that it's working.
Exactly.
But in this case, I say, yes, it is a degree of faith, but not like absolute kind of irrational blind faith, because, as I said, if you already recognize, the desire, the suffering, the pressure of sensuality, the pressure of suffering, the pressure of aversion, the pressure of hindrances, that's the real problem here. Is this craving, desire, that kind of the impulse that controls me, that overwhelms me, that I then act out of, while at the same time I don't want to. I would like to not. The only reason you act out of these desires is because you want to be free from them when they touch you. So if you already start recognizing that, you realize that if somebody comes and tells you, I have a way out, but you got to be sense restrained. It won't be far-fetched. It won't be like, where did that come from now?
That makes sense.
It makes sense. You realize, come on. Like, I have to. Here I am practicing unmovable samadhi, like being sort of fully sort of imperturbable, while sight, sound, smell, taste, touches, I'm still chasing like a rabid animal. So I have to contain that. If you start doing it, sure, then later in further understanding, you gotta have some faith and stick to it and keep doing it and keep practicing the restraint and precepts until other things become more self-evident.
Yeah.
In which case now you see a direct relationship between the taming of the mind and the results of freedom from suffering.
Then you see the danger very clearly, and it's like
Then you don't need any more faith, nor convincing, nor reminders to stick with it.
The cream is working. Yeah.
It's working, and you're realizing what everything else. You see somebody without a cream, basically.
Yes.
How aggravated the condition is now. And it's like, I dodged that bullet. I avoid that.
Yeah, if you're unable to have pause and not just reacting, going after trying to appease your pain and go after pleasure, if you don't have that any restraint, you will not be able to sit with your suffering, sit with the craving, and see it as dangerous, and therefore your mind turn away from that craving.
And most importantly,
you
won't be able to recognize the neutral feeling, because if there is neither pleasure nor pain, that will be very painful. There will be the dread, the anxiety, the madness. You will be losing your mind. That's why if a neutral feeling is not known, not understood, not discerned, it's unpleasant, as so to say. If neutral feeling is understood and discerned, it's pleasant. And that's why people would even prefer engagement with pain, anything but being bored, left alone, sort of mind drifting away from itself in solitude without any distractions. That's the worst thing a person can imagine.
Death.
Anything else, exactly, it feels like dying, because it is a form of dying. Everything else, as long as there is something to fight for, overcome, defend, hope. Well, it still exactly brings hope, brings all these sort of active forms of engagement that keep you for what you are.
Yes. The only way to see the dukkha in feelings is to not act out of it.
Yeah.
Because then you get to experience the feeling, the pressure of it.
Yeah, the extent of it.
And see, well, no matter what I do about it, that basis of pressuring feeling remains.
Yeah.
Whether I delight in it, hate it, try to fight it, ignore it, whatever.
Yeah.
The basis remains. It's like, well, I might as well just... Your mind will...
what do I do
might
then?
as well
What
just
do I do
leave
then?
it.
What do I do? Okay, I'll leave it now. I'm leaving it. Have I left?
Right.
I'm leaving it. Even that can become something they do. A person would do. So you have to recognize, inevitably, your efforts will not be correct, but they will be not as wrong. So at least if you're now discerning and knowing the view that you should really not have to do anything on account of anything that's being felt, and that can only be done if you have endured khanti, patiently sort of been under a pressuring feeling without acting out of it, without trying to get rid of it, without turning a blind eye to it. And that's how the mind is forced basically to grow away from it.
So it turns away. You don't turn it away.
Yeah.
It turns away by default, by what you're doing is
by
just the
keeping the clarity,
patient endurance.
Yeah, not covering up what's right in front of you. So see it for what it is, see the nature of it for what it is, impermanent suffering, and the mind will be turning away.
Mm-hmm. But the problem is that
you don't want to bear the pain of seeing the impermanence.
It's uncomfortable. That sitting there, not doing anything about it.
It is difficult to see, like the craving. I mean, and that's why sense restraint virtue is so integral to this. Yeah,
no, that's the difficulty.
Yeah.
The seeing craving is not difficult. Seeing craving is impossible because you don't want to do the other difficult work, which is not act out of your feelings. So precept, sense restraint, guarding of the sense doors, watchfulness, solitude, that's the difficult part. If you actually cultivate that diligently, you will see the craving. It cannot not be seen. It's not like, and then I need to make where do I look for it? No. It's going to be right there.
But you have to be like uncompromising in the standard of like solitude.
Yeah.
And that is difficult because
you have to be uncompromising in not acting out of your craving.
And authentic,
unwholesome,
as well.
Not acting out of greed, not acting out of aversion, not acting out of distraction. That's what you need to be uncompromising for. So
you can
keep the precepts, guard the sense doors, watchfulness of your intentions. There's no compromise there.
Yeah. And then it's easy to see.
And then solitude will come. You don't even have, because sometimes people can jump at the idea of solitude because like the idea of not being bothered. But you're already bothered. So don't worry about a solitude part. Precepts, guarding of the sense doors, watchfulness of your intentions. And that will factually result in samadhi, in mind turning away, in being more composed, less perturbable, and craving more obvious. And then solitude will be the natural result of that as well. But it means like, okay, I am guarding these sense doors and practicing and keeping the precepts because I want to contain the mind until the craving becomes apparent, so I'm free from it. Not because, they said, well, I mustn't do this. My tradition declares I should keep these rules, thus I'm doing it on the paper. No, you do it because you want to every single time. So you need to feel that responsibility and option of not doing it at any single time. And that's the unpleasant part. Initially, until you get used to it. So you need to feel that edge. Don't compromise there. And then, do not seek unsuitable sight, sound, smell, taste, touches. How do you know what's unsuitable? It's because the letter defined it? Or the rule didn't define it? Does it mean it's suitable? Oh, no. Although even the rule doesn't mention it, the precepts don't mention that I shouldn't look at this. I won't look at it because it's rooted, I know for fact it's rooted in desire. Oh, but there's nothing wrong with it. There is everything wrong with it because it's rooted in your desire. That's what's wrong with it. But if you still judge things on account of the sense objects, the external authority, you're not seeing your intentions, which means you're not doing what I said should be done. Watchfulness of your intentions, it's not being done. Guarding of the sense doors, it's not being done. Precepts are not being done even while you're keeping them. Because you're keeping them on that external level.
So your craving is maintained while
slightly more constricted, yeah. You created a new environment around it, but see now, you start having all these views on account of it, they're fully justifying your craving and your behavior, and not uprooting anything. That's what Buddha said, when samanas and brahmins do start dwelling, kind of become restrained, withdrawn from sensuality, then they fall into all these like views, and holding these views, and arguing over views, and sort of fighting over views, like views become your thing. That self-righteousness, justification, idea of how pure, and all judged by these external criteria, they have nothing to do with right or wrong. Greed, aversion, delusion, non-greed, non-aversion, non-delusion. That's right or wrong. That's it. And then, as I said, craving will have to be seen.
Show itself.
Yeah. So, I'm about to do something. Is it against precepts? No. Okay. Is it rooted in desire? Is it rooted in ill will? Is it rooted in irritation? Is it rooted in cruelty? Is it rooted in distraction? Is it rooted in carelessness? Yeah, okay. I shall not do it then. But the precept says it's fine, yeah. But the guarding of the sense door says it's not fine. But the watchfulness of your intention says it's not fine. So you have a view now. You have a choice to make. Are you going to take the responsibility and use this internal criteria of greed, aversion, delusion, non-greed, non-aversion, delusion for the base of whether you should act or not? Or you're going to go, well, yeah, but Ajahn said, look, he does it, thus I can do it. If it's fine for him, it's fine for me. And that's it.
Yeah, that person
means you're not taking it internally. You have not taken even the precepts rightly.
it's the pull to continue acting is there, and there is still this pressure, and then the choice to not act is where
that's where the work is,
which allows you to then discern craving, which allows you to then
that's what I say. Like, it's not understanding the Dhamma, seeing the craving. It's not like, as I said, this hidden mystery and secret that you kind of have to like really, really discern and work hard intellectually to get to. No, you have to work hard to withdraw yourself from where you are. Withdraw the mind from the senses, from the dependence on the pleasure of the senses, from acting out of pressure, and then you'll see it. It's right there. It's going to be right there in your face.
Very tangible.
Yeah. So that's the difficult part, is exactly what nobody wants to do. People can sit for hours and ponder on Dhamma and figure it out and read the dictionaries and get the degrees in it and know every single text, and loads of effort, factually, loads of effort and time and discomfort. But what they don't want to do is endure the pressure on a level of feeling and not act out of it, not get rid of it, not try to justify it, not psychologize it, not explain it. Just endure it without distracting yourself from it, without falling back onto the senses to cover it up. That's the middle way.
Yeah, the only way.
That's why it's not done, because it's the subtlest one to see and stick with it. But if somebody is diligent in that regard, then you don't even have to worry about the craving and paticcasamuppada and everything else. It's just going to be seen there.
Very real.
And also where it is. Like, you see, when you're trying to think about it before you have developed your behavior, your mind withdrawn from sensuality, that which you think craving is, isn't. That which you think your aggregates aren't. It's misconceived. Whatever he conceives, it's always different than that, as the Sutta says. Because of your conceiving.